My vanilla cake with strawberry filling and Cool Whip frosting recipe is going to be amazing. And by using a box of cake mix, a bag of frozen strawberries, and a tub of whipped topping, this cake is going to be super easy. To make this cake, you will need one 15.25 ounce box of white cake mix and one small 3.4 ounce box of instant vanilla pudding. To that, you're going to add half a cup of sour cream, 120 grams. I'm using full fat, but you can use reduced fat or fat-free. 1 cup of water, 3 large eggs, 1/4 cup of canola oil, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I have all my ingredients. My 8-inch cake pans are buttered and floured off to the side. They're ready to go. So literally all I have to do is dump the ingredients into my bowl and start mixing. Here I have the cake mix, the pudding. My recipe calls for instant vanilla pudding, but if you accidentally buy the kind that has to be cooked, it should be fine. I have done that by accident and I didn't notice any difference. Half a cup of sour cream, room temperature, as is the water. You could use milk if you want as well, I'm sure. 1 cup of water, 3 large eggs, the canola oil, you could use you could use vegetable oil if you want. That works too. Vanilla extract, the tablespoon of white vinegar. I know you're probably saying, Parnell, why are we adding vinegar to cake? That's just to help cut the sweetness a bit and help create an acidic environment to help it rise. Same with the sour cream. Now that all my ingredients are in the bowl, I'm preheating my oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to take my electric mixer and mix to combine. If you don't have an electric mixer, you can mix by hand. Now I have my 8-inch cake pans. I'm going to put the batter in evenly. I'm going to get out my kitchen scale to make sure the layers are even, and then I'm going to bake these layers at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, uncovered. I will let you know for how long. My vanilla cake layers just came out of the oven. They were in at 325 Fahrenheit, uncovered, for 40 minutes. 40. Now that the vanilla cake layers are done, it's time to make the strawberry filling. As usual, I'm using frozen strawberries, but since I'm going to cook them, you can use fresh strawberries for this recipe as well. Here in this pot, I have 1 pound or 16 ounces, 454 grams of frozen strawberries. And as you can see, they are still frozen. To the strawberries, I'm going to add some sugar. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of white sugar. So I measure 50 grams, 1/4 cup of light brown sugar, 60 grams. I'm going to start off with a total of half a cup of sugar. I think the light brown is really going to give this a good depth of flavor. But if you want to preserve the color a bit more, then just do half a cup of white sugar. I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of water, because if we cook these berries without any water, they'll probably burn. And then towards the end, I'm going to make a cornstarch slurry with 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, 40 grams, and 4 tablespoons of water. So to get this strawberry filling for cakes recipe going, I'm just going to pour everything except the 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and the 2 tablespoons of water into my pot. Once everything is in the pot, I am going to turn on the heat, and it is going to cook for probably about 10 minutes until it comes to a boil. And as it comes to a boil, I'm going to use my spoon to stir and start breaking apart the strawberries. It's been about 10 minutes and my strawberries have now come to a full boil. So I'm going to turn down the heat from high to medium, and I'm just going to continue stirring and breaking up the strawberries for 20 minutes over medium heat. I've been cooking and stirring and mashing the strawberries on medium heat for 20 minutes now, and as you can see, they've really broken down into a pretty smooth sauce. Now it's time to add the cornstarch slurry. Like I said earlier in the video, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch and 4 tablespoons of water. Think of it as a 1/4 cup of cornstarch and a 1/4 cup of water. Mix that together off to the side, then add it to the strawberry sauce and stir to combine. After about 30 seconds, your sauce should thicken up, so then turn off the heat. My strawberry filling is now done. My cake layers are out of the pans, so now it's time to add the filling. I'm going to put the filling onto the bottom cake layer, and then I am going to spread it out. When I spread it out, I'm not going to take it all the way to the edge. I'm going to leave a little bit of space along the edge because when I put on the top crust, I don't want the filling to come out the sides. The pudding frosting to go on this vanilla cake with strawberry filling is probably the easiest part of the recipe. It only has 3 simple ingredients, so you can put it together in no time. Here in this bowl, I have one 3.4 ounce packet of instant vanilla pudding. It must be instant, not the kind you have to cook. One 8 ounce tub of Cool Whip or any other type of whipped topping, along with 1 cup of milk. I am using whole milk, but I think you could use 2%, 1%, probably even skim. To make this frosting, simply empty the contents of the pudding mix into the bowl and add 1 cup of milk. On the directions for the instant pudding, it probably says to add 2 cups of milk. Do not do that. Add 1 cup. We want this to be thicker than normal. Now just take a whisk or a fork, probably even a spoon, anything you have, and stir to combine. And now for the Cool Whip. Even though making this pudding frosting is really easy, this is probably the most difficult part because when you're combining 2 ingredients of different densities, in this case the thicker pudding and the lighter, airier Cool Whip, you can't stir them together normally. Instead, you have to fold them together. To do this, simply take your spatula or a really wide spoon and start by digging it down under the Cool Whip and the pudding and then turning it to bring it to the top. Think of an under and over motion. Even though it will take you a minute or two to combine the pudding and the Cool Whip, this is the best way to do it because if you stir them together normally, you might accidentally deflate the Cool Whip. Now I'm going to need a cake. The frosting is good enough to eat on its own, but I'm going to put it on a cake. Here I have a vanilla cake with strawberry filling, and this is going to make the cake reminiscent of strawberry shortcake. So all I'm going to do is literally just layer it on. This recipe makes enough frosting to frost the outside and put some in the middle of an 8-inch cake, but this cake already has filling, so I'm not going to need all of it. Oh, I can have some strawberries and cream later. And just simply take your spoon or spatula, probably easier with the spoon, and smooth it out like this. As I started frosting the cake, I realized that the frosting was not as stiff as it should be. Honestly, at first, I thought that maybe I had ruined it somehow, but I said, you know what, I'm going to put this into the refrigerator and see what happens. I put both the cake and the bowl with the frosting in the refrigerator for 30 to 35 minutes, and as you can see here, it helped a lot. My kitchen was hot from the oven and all the lights that were on, and the Cool Whip and the milk, everything had been out of the refrigerator for a long time, so that's probably why it was so loose. So if you're making this vanilla cake with strawberry filling and Cool Whip frosting at home and your frosting just doesn't look like it wants to set up, it might be that it's too warm. So just put your frosting into the refrigerator for 30 to 45 minutes and it should stiffen up a lot. After letting the cake sit in the refrigerator for 4 hours, I was ready to dig in. And honestly, this vanilla cake with strawberry filling and Cool Whip frosting recipe was a big success because it was absolutely incredibly delicious. Although the cake layers themselves had a good vanilla flavor, what I really liked about the cake layers was that they were so soft and fluffy. It was almost like eating a cloud, and I shared this cake with some people and they agreed with me. The cake itself was super soft. I normally use buttermilk, which is actually fairly low in fat, or fat-free sour cream in my cakes, but this time I use full-fat sour cream, and I think that might be the reason why. The strawberry filling itself had nice strawberry flavor, and even though the bit of brown sugar maybe didn't make it quite as red, it was still red enough for me. And as you can see here, the cake, the frosting, and the filling all came together absolutely beautifully. And even though the frosting did give me a bit of trouble in the beginning, it worked out because it was absolutely fantastic on this cake. Not only did the frosting have a good vanilla flavor, but I also really liked its smooth, creamy texture. The creaminess of the frosting combined very nicely with the fluffiness of the cake. Honestly, all three parts of this cake, the layers, the filling, and the frosting, came together absolutely perfectly, both in terms of flavor and texture. I was really happy that this cake turned out so well because this was actually the third time that I had made it. I tried to make it twice during the summer of 2021, but both times it didn't work out. I think that this cake is a good example of how sometimes when you make something for the first time, and especially if you invent your own recipes like I do, they don't always work out. Although it definitely is frustrating to have a recipe not turn out right, consider it to be a learning experience. Just like with anything in life, when you make a mistake, it's a lot easier to consider it a learning experience and move on than to dwell on it. And like I said, I'm glad I kept trying because this vanilla cake with strawberry filling and Cool Whip frosting was phenomenal. If you're looking for a summertime cake, this is definitely the one that you want because it's light, airy, cool, creamy, refreshing, sweet but not too sweet. Absolutely perfect. I'll be releasing individual recipe videos for the filling and the frosting at some point in the future, so stay tuned. So, if you like strawberries and you're looking for the perfect summer cake or the perfect cake to remind you of summer, especially if you like strawberry shortcake, this recipe is for you. If you make it, I know you'll love it. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.